Hello and welcome to this edition of Defacto Review, a weekly roundup of the biggest stories shaping Mongolia. Here with us tonight is economist and commentator Jargal Defacto, and I'm Terrence Edwards.
Good evening.
We're live on Facebook at V Television. We want to hear your thoughts, so send comments via Twitter with hashtag Jargal_Defacto. Okay, coming up on the program. Government aims to cut foreign workforce to around 4,000 in the next 2 years. World Bank to provide $120 million in financing to help sustain Mongolia's debt burden. Bank of Mongolia raises capital requirements to $100 billion to GRIC by 2021. And designers unveil fashionable pollution mask on the runway. Our first story of the evening. The Okna Horosu cabinet plans to cut the number of foreign workers to about 4,000 by 2020. The cabinet on 31 October ruled in favor of reducing the number of workers by 50% from today's 9,500 foreign workers, according to news.mn. In 2018, the foreign workforce was estimated at 5% of Mongolia's employed. The order includes some exceptions for special industries, though they have not been named yet. So, unemployment has long been a problem for the Bank of Mongolia, as well as the Finance Ministry and the government at large. Is this what they're trying to attack here, and do you think it can actually be effective?
That's very big questions, because unemployment is not only their concern, but also whole Mongolian concern.
Yeah.
We have a total 1 million labor, and out of 1 million, over 100,000 so-called ninja mining or artisanal miners,
Yeah.
and another 120 or so thousand people are working abroad. They are looking for any jobs better paid, in particular in Korea, about 30 or so thousand people, or now 40,000.
Yeah.
And Mongolians are looking for jobs abroad a lot. And the interesting thing is the same ministry is supporting their employment abroad. Recently, the related minister visited South Korea and asked them if they can increase our quota of Mongolian workers. At the same time, as you said, they want to decrease foreign workers' quota in Mongolia.
So that might not be a good tip for tat there.
On one side,
yeah.
And on the other side, it may be mostly a composition of, it is different from industry to industry.
Yeah.
I believe majority of these foreign workers they are trying to limit is Chinese and maybe North Koreans, construction workers mostly.
Yeah. A lot of aren't on the books anyway, so it would be hard to enforce that.
On one side.
Yeah.
On the other side, they have this long-term plan to decrease half of them, up to 40% of the current quota, 9,500 as you said. But, you know...
Well, half of 9,500.
Yeah, out of 9,500.
Yeah.
You know, what happens is Ministry of Social Care and Labor estimates the amount of workers. They try to cut them to the level of total labor.
Yeah.
And when the total labor is decreasing, they want to decrease it in that way. But I don't think, unless it is specified by sector, it is not a very smart move. Mm-hmm. In particular, it doesn't mean that, it should not be meaning that we are against foreign direct investment, because some foreign direct investment, in particular in those sectors where we want to have diversified our economy, require, of course, at the beginning, foreign workers, in particular knowledge workers. So I don't think it is targeting across the board everybody.
Yeah.
I think in particular industry, and yet they said they will specify the industries. It's different.
It's strange that it hasn't been named yet. I think a lot of people would expect mining, but that's just speculation.
Exactly. Plus, by the way, about mining. Mining is, though, the largest part of GDP.
Yes.
90% of our export.
But not the largest employer.
Exactly. And in this employment, it is not also, in particular, knowledge workers. We don't have that many foreigners. So it's a matter of just construction workers.
I think Oyo Tolga gets a bad rap because when they first started, they had a lot of foreign workers come in to start, but they've actually tapered out the number of foreign workers and replaced them with a lot of Mongolian counterparts.
That's what's going to happen with this underground mining of Oyu Tolgoi.
Exactly.
Where now thousands of also foreign workers, and they would leave as soon as this one is completed.
Yeah, because it's a short-term project.
The first case was, the first phase of OT had the similar history. Now the decisions was saying that only a company which has up to or over 20 employees would have less than 5% employees. That means what, 200, say 100 employees, they can have 5 employees, foreigners, 4, and 5%, and so there will be limit according to their statements, and I don't think it will harm foreign direct investment into particular sectors that we want to be diversified.
Yeah. Though I would like to point out that when you look at the unemployment situation in Mongolia, if you talk to employers, it has a lot more to do with skills mismatch than actual foreign workers replacing Mongolian workers. There is a problem where there's not enough people with the skills that are required in Mongolia. Now, past governments have tried to address this with training, but if they're going to abandon that for such populist policies, it would be a wrong term in my opinion.
They would still need to continue this training.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, I'm a little bit biased. I consider myself a foreign worker in Mongolia. There was no mention of journalists, though, in the statement. So, do you think this would actually, if they were to take this farther than you previously said you expect, do you think it would be a discrimination against foreign workers, especially since many have lived here more than 5 years, more than 10 years?
I don't think they are targeting these segments of workers like yours, who still we need in this country and in different here and there. But it must be addressed because the level of foreign employees compared to total employment is tend to have increasing. And that means with the further diversification of the economy, further increase of our competitiveness, hopefully it will bring more employment, more employee jobs, then this will be more or less, I think it will be, the level will be flexible.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely an issue to watch. I'm sure our audience will be watching very closely. We're going to move on to our second story of the evening. The World Bank approved $120 million in financing to help protect the Mongolian economy and manage the debt burden, the global institution announced on Thursday. The World Bank said the financial support was in response to a fall in commodity prices and foreign investment that were, quote, compounded by expansionary policies, end quote. Mongolia's country manager for the World Bank, James Anderson, said the program endorses measures already taken by Mongolia to put the country on a healthier path as well as rebalance the social welfare system. Okay, so I just want to look at this a little bit broader. Do you think the World Bank would be making any such steps if Mongolia had not previously made the $5.5 billion rescue package with the IMF and its partners?
See, World Bank has 2 channels to help its members, in particular from the developing world. One is a loan, it is development loan for 40 years. The other is grants. And according to this World Bank board decisions from last 30th of November, they will, with this loan, will continue support their grants towards non-mining development, education, IT, etc. They have mentioned the communique they made after that decisions. However, this, back to your questions, this loan is coming as a package of the extended fund facility of the International Monetary Fund. So, Monetary Fund itself already lended $460 million US dollar, The World Bank total package inside of that larger package is 600 million US dollar.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of people assume it's only the IMF, but there's actually a lot of actors at play here.
Yeah, and it's the World Bank only part we talk about.
Yeah.
And out of the $600 million, now 120 million is coming. This is the decisions they made. But however, my concern is, and World Bank, ADB, all those money goes to the budget deficit to cover. And it's a good and bad. Good in the case that there will be less budget burden now. But however, it is not grant, it's a loan that we will pay one day, at the day when the current government have nothing to do.
Yeah.
Unless 40 years or so. However, this is a 3 years program, it turned out, within this EFF facility. A 3 years program, it's
like the IMF program.
Budget support, and it is 0.75% per year plus LIBOR.
Sure.
So it's about less than 2% today, but with the LIBOR, if it increases, it will be increased. However, it's again, not grant, it's a loan that Mongolians for longer run to pay back. So now my question is, does it come with the proper responsibility of the government not misusing, not overusing this money?
Yeah.
At the end, we have to pay. So it is, again, other governments' budget money.
Yeah, there was some strong language here that Mongolia should not use the expansionary policy, but who knows how closely they'll enforce that.
That's the problem. We, the civil society, want to know that Mongolia is using it, not misusing it.
Because Mongolians are already feeling it now. They can look forward to higher income taxes next year because of past mistakes.
Because I don't believe in the responsibility of our government, which keeps amending our budget 2 or 3 times a year. What a responsibility you can talk about when you can change budget law as much as you, like a rubber, you want change. You can change. So my concern is if this World Bank money is coming with these conditions, that they will not be misusing that budget again. This is a loan, actually.
Yeah. So the World Bank mentioned some problems that it wants to address with this money. What are the main problems that the World Bank has said that this would help?
Well, it says that policy reform that they want to support, and it is expected to promote specific development outcomes that contribute to poverty reduction, they say. However, poverty is not reduced in this country. It is increased.
Yes.
It was 20% 2 years ago, now 30%.
As we've reported on in the past.
So how about that the Millennium Development Goal, a Sustainable Development Goal, by 2030 we will completely overcome poverty. Yet we are keep increasing the poverty. So who is taking responsibility? Who is checking? Why is it happening? I don't see proper conclusion on that. And most importantly, proper enforcement that government is keep staying with their policy.
Yeah.
Instead of keep changing. We are, you know, when the government is keep amending the budget, they keep increasing the debt, which is due to pay in several years after this government lasts.
Yeah.
So that's the whole concern of Mongolia. They are borrowing from the future, and we still are there. We have to pay, but not this government. So we wish World Bank has this strong disciplinary act upon the government increasing our budget deficit.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, the language in this statement also mentioned a rebalancing of social welfare. What do you think this means, and do you think it will be painful for Mongolia's most vulnerable?
That's concern, rebalancing. What does it mean? Actually, a couple of years ago, we have intellectually agreed that this social care will address those who need.
Yes.
Then suddenly, overnight, they changed their policy. Now they are taking care of everybody, giving money to every family, every children.
Making it universal.
Yeah, and it doesn't solve the issues, in particular in terms of employment, in terms of entrepreneurship, because a family father with 5 or 6 children is getting money anyway a month, and who is controlling that this money goes not for drinking, it exactly goes for the at least the food of the children.
Yeah.
So that's our total concern, and the civic society, the people at this sport, the other ordinary Mongolians at that particular Horo, Bag, Som, Amag, they control that money instead of the politicians. They exactly know why the poor family, they need money, we should give them. Not running every family after that money, which completely destroys the spirit of Mongolians to work hard. That's why this universal care is preventing the people to be a business.
Yeah. Okay, I want to move on to our third story of the evening. The Bank of Mongolia this month has announced that the minimum capital requirement for commercial banks will be raised to 100 billion tugrik by 2021, according to the UB Post. The order requires banks hold at least that much as a buffer to prevent economic shocks that could hurt account holders. The order is unrelated to the asset quality review that the IMF Mongolia have ordered as part of the $5.5 billion bailout package earlier this year to help manage and buoy the tugrik. The last time capital requirements were increased was 2015, when the minimum was raised threefold to 50 billion tugrik. So, Jargal, in your opinion, what do you think will be the immediate impacts of this capital requirement, and will consumers be affected?
Well, you see, the immediate impact will be very late because the term 2021, January 1st, it's 4 years from now. And I don't think it will impact at all now. And I'm surprised why 4 years from now. And it should be in a couple of years because we need more quality banks, large banks that is able to finance large projects. Because the current, banks, their own capital, 50 billion, okay, to an extent they can increase out to 50 billion, 500 billion, only the most 10 times more, right? And so 500 billion US dollar is not, 5 billion Mongolian tugrik is not that big money.
Yes.
I wish it's 500 billion. It is not enough money to finance any substantial, smaller even projects. So that's why we need more foreign banks coming to this country.
Yeah.
But as I read, the problem in Mongolian banking sector is with the large 4 banks, which takes 80% of total asset. There are another 12 or 13 banks who are remaining and playing just 20% of this total banking asset.
Yeah.
What does it say? It says that these small commercial banks can exist.
Yeah.
And plus, they have in general, the commercial banks altogether have very strong lobbies to the parliament. That's why they are delaying this increase of on capital to
So do you suppose if this was to come into effect, say January 1st, this coming, any of the banks, would they be able to meet this requirement?
No, it will be hard. Except this couple banks are already more than this one.
Yeah.
But however,
The smaller ones would not.
The smaller one down the road should go through the process of M&A, merger and acquisitions. So question is, why is not happening in Mongolia? Because it's not happening because these commercial small banks have not international standard banking, standard of accounting, all these standards. Otherwise, if they have this accountant internationally accepted principles, then they would be bought by another bank or they could merge together. To increase just substantially. Normally, if it is normal competitive market, you would do that. You get together and somehow you will be more stronger, which never is happening in this country. So it's still the question.
You mentioned there's opportunity for foreign banks to come in to participate. Do you suppose they would come in to set up foreign banks in Mongolia or invest in existing banks?
Well, I don't see now a particular bank coming or applying for having a branch except the Bank of China.
Yes.
The other banks are very reluctant. Mitsubishi Bank, Sumitomo Bank. ING.
It's a small market.
Yeah, for them it's a small market. Yet they have a rep office here, right? Mm-hmm. And through their rep office, in particular Bank of China, they are already lending to Mongolian larger companies from Beijing or somewhere else, which is kind of, it is existing, the loan is existing de facto, but the jure, it is not. So that's why Mongolian commercial banks are very worried about the foreign bank coming and taking over many loans. They are otherwise very expensive for them to give to lending.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, 100 billion tugrik, do you think that's high enough, or in coming years it'll go even higher?
It cannot be higher. It cannot be enough, because after 4 years, it will be another kind of banking sector picture.
So there'll be a second step.
By that time, if our capital market is increased, that will be a different matter, because then the people have opportunity to shift their savings into a capital market, which is now, that's what is pending. So with the foreign banks, there will be more competitiveness, and then I think the interest rate will be lower because the foreign banks can bring cheaper money, so there will be less opportunity for investing into a bank for higher rate. It will be lower and lower rate, then it goes to this market.
Yeah.
So I think it's eventually that's what's going to happen, provided that this banking asset quality is normal. And now that's why we are very much expecting, ordinary people are expecting the reports from this asset quality review of commercial banks.
Yeah, because the Mongol bank says that it's not relevant or related, but I do suspect if people came in to invest in Mongolia's banking sector, well, as you say, they will be looking at that report very closely.
Necessarily. That's why we need third-party independent review of Mongolian, each commercial bank's asset.
Yeah.
In particular, ranking of the loans.
Yeah.
Whether if it is too much over bad loans, they should be already taken from the bad debt insurance inside a risk fund. The money should be put back into covering that bad loans. So in the economic downturns as now, it's a big issue for many companies, many banks to write off several loans because the economy is slow anyway.
Yeah.
Just take it this impact of this lower speed, slower transportation through Chinese border.
Oh yes.
It impacts.
You're
on
talking about the
long
traffic
queue.
jam
Yes,
in the Gobi Desert for the coal mines.
Yes, you visited there. You
Yes.
made a wonderful, really true picture for Reuters, and it is giving international for international audience right picture, which is very good work. And that very long queue impacts on the quality of loans of commercial banks.
Yeah.
And plus also, there are a lot equipment suppliers whose payment is delayed. So overall, just this long queue makes the economy slower.
Yeah.
So that's again, it's an issue of risk management of commercial banks. What happens if in the mining sector you have a bad asset, quality goes down? What is the second, which is replacing this one?
Yeah.
So what is your portfolio? How many, up to which percent you can allow have a loan in particular one sector? So it's again an issue of diversification of loans. It's an issue of your portfolio management properly, your risk you take properly. Risk management should be good, etc. So it's a whole bunch of banking management issues.
Yeah, and I think we talked a lot about the development of the banking sector, and we have higher capital requirements. We have this AQR. I think what investors would like to see is probably more transparency in the ownership of these banks, which is something you've talked at length about in past episodes.
No doubt, no doubt. Without that transparency of owners, and there will be no serious investors coming to the country except very fast, hot money, which they want to just go in, take out. So Mongolia needs to increase not only governance quality at the government level, but at the banking level, at the companies, corporation levels, So we need to do a lot of homework.
No disagreement here. Our final story for the evening. A unique accessory hit the runway week this fashion event, showcasing the work of professionals from the Mongolian Designers Union. No, not scarves, not sunglasses, not handbags. It was actually pollution masks. Designers are spotlighting the annual wintertime health concern affecting Ulaanbaatar's poorest communities and most vulnerable citizens. The masks were manufactured by the Cambridge Mask Company with support from the British Embassy in Mongolia. Organists say they sold all 2,000 masks they had in stock for the show, but added masks are now available at retailers found in Ulaanbaatar. So, do you think this might be effective? A lot of people walking around UB, you still don't see enough people wearing masks, in my opinion. Do you think events like this can help?
It should, certainly. And the very fact that the fashion show is coming with that mask is a one way of expressions of dissatisfaction of ordinary people in Mongolia in its very artistic way of expressing. But in actual life, the situation is even worse. In Bayung Hoshu, in the northeast area, where there is certain kind of a pot, the polluted area is staying longer, and we have more children have these diseases. We have a full of the hospitals, children hospitals of the children who is sick because that air pollutions. And even when you go outside yourself now in the street, you feel very terrible. And nowadays also people have own measurement system, and I just meet
so they can see the levels themselves.
All around. This is kind of watch type of watch size of things you put there, and now everywhere it comes around 280, which is the level where it's already dangerous for life. So how long we can stay here like this? One. Secondly, what the hell happened with our monies we have spent it for years, and nobody is taking responsibility. They keep talking again, spending more money. It's very simple. Get these people in Gate district involved in housing themselves. And not only the construction, but also profit sharing. Let them get together. Create housing cooperatives, and they make in the place of their houses now hasha fences. They make now houses, and they not only have their own apartments, but the rest they sell it and share profits. This very simple scheme I suggested 10 years ago. Let's replace our fence land with housing, with apartments. That was the concept I was promoting, and nobody's doing that. Unfortunately, that's why we spend a hell of money. I think we spent so much money that could solve the problems, at least 60% by this time, in vain. A couple guys here and there in prison, so what? And now they keep spending, again, almost the same amount of money for all sort of stoves, what kind of stuff, right? And they said also different kind of briquettes. It doesn't work. So things are becoming worse and worse.
Those are definitely frustrating issues, and I've been watching with no success seen in my years in Mongolia. But for the short term, and the reason I wanted to talk about this story today was I think it's really important that people get used to the idea of wearing masks. I think there's still a stigma, you look silly, it's not really cool to wear a mask. But I think people don't realize that, especially young people, your children, you're taking years off their life just by not sending them out every day to school. It's really important that they take this one precaution. And if this fashion show helps normalize wearing masks, I think it's a good thing for at least today.
And let's have a mask first. The second, let's demand the government at the all local level, at the government central level, that they are to be responsible for the money they're spending for particular projects, and there should be less corruption, and that it all depends on us, on voters. So let's demand in Mongolian democracy we learn to elect, vote, but we have not learned to control. That's the missing leg of our democracy. And hopefully people, in particular young people, first, they will have a mask. Second, they will control the local and central government.
I'm going to let you have the final word right there.
Well, we try to to share our independent opinions on the most important issues of a week that impacts on our life. And it is Mongolians who to change, not the government looks like. So my final words to English-speaking Mongolians would be, let's have a debate on that. Let's learn to hold responsible all decision makers. Thank you.
Good night, Ulaanbaatar.